Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Sean Decker, and I'd like you to hear something.
Can you describe his final words?
Broken windows and rusty eyes.
Can you tell us what happened here?
They finally got sick of it all. They just gave up on accepting fate. That was they found Philly's bed straight down. After being in the rooms, destroying the structure, destroying the breathing, obliterating. And there was sleep through its hallways, hanging up the environment of their caretakers. Thanks to those
Can you describe the circumstances?
the dog. The corner of it. I thought that's very big. He just like
So brave in the face of all those roots that ruin. To stand so tall when in fact it ruins. So brave in the face of all those roots that ruin.
Describe the feeling.
To stand so tall when in fact it ruins. To face that corner of the box and dive in. Just the sound alone of the tumbled ground. To face that corner of the box and dive in. Just the sound alone of the tumbled ground. You're hearing Interview at the Ruins by Circle Takes the Square, featuring my friend Kathleen Stubelek on bass and vocals. For many people, including myself, the release of their album, As the Roots Undo, signified a turning point in the way we look at song structures, album narratives, and layered vocals. Kathleen and I first met in what used to be a small town of Port Charlotte, Florida, where we both went to high school. In the years since, our bands have played a couple shows together, but we haven't had much time to talk. So here's my conversation with Kathleen Stubelek.
Softly as the roots undo, and the branch becomes from the ruins. Echo softly as the roots undo, and the branch becomes from the ruins. Echo softly as the roots undo, and the branch becomes from the ruins. Echo softly as the roots undo.
I was born in New York, actually, but we moved down to Florida when I was like 2, and I have 3 siblings that are all older than me. And as you know, I grew up in Port Charlotte, Florida.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
And you moved to Port Charlotte when you were 2, and you were there until after high school then?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I went to high school. I went to Port Charlotte High. You went to Port Charlotte High, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then I went to Manatee for a couple of years, did community college, and then I moved to Savannah.
Oh, okay.
After that, and went to SCAD.
Right. Were either of your parents musical growing up, or like visual arts or anything like that?
Musical, no. They didn't even really listen to music, but I had, like I said, I had 2 older brothers and an older sister, and they all listened to music, and so I was around a lot of that kind of stuff, like just like, you know, rock and pretty much like the 80s rock that was going on, you know.
Yeah.
But my parents didn't really listen to music, and but my dad was kind of he was super creative. He was like a painter and he was sort of a photographer. He kind of dabbled in. He would like build models and stuff. So yeah, he was super creative. He just wasn't he wasn't a musical guy.
Yeah.
Actually, he might have been. I don't know, but I think his dad played like violin.
Uh-huh.
So, but I never met his dad. I never met my grandpa.
Um, did you play musical instruments in grade school?
No,
Not at
I
all.
wanted to. I remember like in elementary school, they were going around and they were like, "Hey, who wants to join band?" And I wanted to play drums so bad in band, but I was just like too scared to just raise my hand.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe the chance will come up again sometime. But I was too chicken, so I never joined band. That would have been super fun. But I started playing music like way out of high school. I think I was like 19 when I started hanging out with people who played guitar and listened to, the kind of music that we ended up playing. It was like Chad and them,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I didn't know anybody who played music until I met you and Chuck in summer school.
Right.
And then
that was a time. We could probably incriminate ourselves talking about what happened at summer school.
Yeah.
Or I could anyway.
But I do want to, but all that matters is that I met you and Chuck and listened to your music, and I was like, wait a second. They bought guitars, taught themselves how to play, wrote songs, recorded them, made a tape, and like, we're just like, here's our music that we wrote and recorded, and we're going to play a show that you should totally come to. I was just like, what? You can do that?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was just like a whole new world for me. And then a couple of years later, I think was when. So I don't remember what year that was. I was trying to remember if that was like, I think in between 11th and 12th grade for me. So it would have been like 92 or something. Do you remember when that was?
It was somewhere around there, because I think it didn't seem like very long until you were down in the warehouse, a few warehouses down, playing in a band. Didn't feel like it anyway. Am I like messing this timeline up?
Maybe, because I don't think that I was. I think I was like 19 when I started hanging out with them and like trying to sing in their band and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it was probably after I had graduated, but after I had came back briefly, maybe when I lived in Gainesville for a little bit. But I'm not really sure. I remember Chuck and Dana, and I was pretty sure that you were in that band at that time. But no?
Yeah, if it was like if it was like 96 or something. Yeah, it was definitely me and Dana.
Yeah.
Because Dana was like 15 when we got him.
Right. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, there were a couple of people that let us get away with some things, like warehouse owners that looked the other way temporarily, and then there was like the one club that let us like have a show where Less Than Jake played, and there was like 300 people at like a show some high school kids booked, and then we all kind of just took it from there. But
I think about how crazy that is that in a town like that we had so many bands.
Yeah. And I was thinking like as well, like, as small as the town was, and the way it felt like not that many people were interested in the kinds of things we were interested in, we would still get like a lot of support from like just people at school or whatever, and I find that strange now, but cool. But also, I think it's awesome that out of like 5 bands or whatever that I can think of playing in our town, there were 2 bands with women in them, and I think that's amazing. So I just take out a second to say like thank you, and thanks to Jen Vito for like being present and taking up space at that time, especially because, you know, that, I mean, there, as small as our town was, you know, that was really awesome to me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just toured with Jen on I filled in on a Warren Wyndham tour.
Yeah, yeah,
On bass, and we were talking about that, you know, and just,
yeah. How did that go?
yeah, it was well. Oh, it was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't played in like 3 years, and they were like, "Hey, can you come and learn our shit in 4 days?" I was like,
You
sure.
maybe you were kind of like, well, I don't have to sing, so yeah, let's do it. That's how I
Exactly.
That's how I feel when like when I book like my own tours and stuff, and I'm like, there's this different pressure when I have to sing, but when I just get to play, like, I'm just like no pressure, you know. I'm like, this is awesome. Not
Yeah. Well, I know that now, and like I didn't.
Yeah.
I guess I figured. Well, I was like, let me listen to the songs, and I listened to them. Like, okay, I can pretty much play along with these. No, nothing too tricky there. And then I was like, well, but I got 4 days. I don't want to fuck them up. I don't want to look like. I don't want to fuck up their shit, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But then when I talked to Brooks, he was like, you got this. I'm going to send you videos. And if you have anything, you know, you're really stuck on, then I'm going to talk you through it. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was cool. And it was super fun, like you said. Like, I mean, you know, with Circle, I'd played like hour-and-a-half shows sometimes where you're just like, I'm playing the entire time and I'm streaming almost the entire time and changing pedals and like controlling lights and shit.
Uh-huh.
And and this was 30 minutes of just playing. It was so nice.
Yeah.
And it was over like that, you know, and I was like, oh, this is what's normal. Like,
It's like, call me anytime.
Right? Like, why? We always tortured ourselves in my band, and the audience to some extent. And like, we're gonna play some more. We're gonna play for 14 minutes straight without a break. But but yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, hanging with Jen and being like, hey, she was my cousin's neighbor, so I kind of knew her before. But I didn't really know her until like we started playing in bands, and No More had already been a band. It seemed like forever when I started playing. And
still a band.
But yeah, it was definitely still a band. Still No More, and but yeah, very cool. And I was like, yeah, the only girl I knew who played any, and then that was it for a couple of years. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Got to get out of Port Charlotte.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really cool. But I don't know. I guess I never really like ranked it though. It was just like, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't. You know, at the time, I didn't think very much of it. You know, but as I get older and I realize like what representation means and everything, then I just look back at certain times, and especially at that time, and I'm just like, you know, that really rules. So yeah. I wonder, going back a little bit, how did you end up starting to play bass? What's the story there as far as like how you got a bass, and you know what it was like when you were first starting to learn?
Oh, so let's see. I actually was going to buy a guitar, and I started playing it, I think. I don't know. I had, you know, some friends who played and would gladly show me stuff, but then I think the band needed a bass player more than a guitarist.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I can't really remember like if it was just like, oh, try it out, or if it was like a spot that needed to be filled or whatever. It didn't like call to me or anything.
Uh-huh.
That's for sure. I really always wanted to play drums, and I still wanted to play drums. When I started hanging out with kids who had drum sets, I was always back there annoying everybody. But like, then if you couldn't play the double bass like punk beat,
Yeah.
there was no hope for you as a drummer.
Yeah.
So, I think that if I had tried in a different scene or something, it would have ended. Would have gone further maybe.
Yeah.
But
I definitely am
so.
guilty of like at that time being like, who can do this very one specific thing that like all of the bands we were playing and wanted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever
And
get
there were plenty of people who could do it, that were just like, oh, you just do this, and tried to show me or teach me, and I'm sure, I probably could have got it eventually, but
Oh, for sure.
it was just like, whoa, that's way too hard. But yeah, so I got a bass from, I think I bought a bass from Denver, and it was like $150 or something. It was like a shitty, like, off-brand that no one's ever heard of. And it was perfect. And then I bought a Fender combo amp from Chuck's brother Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have both of those things.
Awesome.
And this would have been like 96 or something.
Yeah.
And I started learning like less than Jake songs and stuff like that. And also, Brian Carpenter showed me a bunch of stuff.
Oh gosh, Brian was unbelievable for someone
Incredible.
our age. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so serious. Loved the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Was super supportive about me learning to play bass and, wanting to show me stuff, lending me like videos. He had like this, top 10 bassists ever video that he let me borrow.
Oh, cool.
And, yeah. And, it's got like Victor Wooten on it and shit. He's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. And he was in Noir and obviously is like a crazy touring musician now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And, let's see.
Just kind of joined a band. And
I did. I just kind of joined the band. The band already existed, and I sang. And then I started to play bass and sing, and then we were the 3-piece. And just sort of learned by absorbing what the guys were doing, and like just asking questions and listening and kind of figuring it out.
And
Very just sort of intuitively.
And what band was that? The very first band.
That would have been the Fisticuffs.
Okay.
Or the very first band was Herbal Tea, but I didn't play bass in that band.
And then the Fisticuffs were kind of the same band, right? But wasn't it like the same people? Or no?
It was only Chuck, and he, instead of drums, he played guitar.
Oh,
and
okay.
then we had Dana on drums. So it was a 3-piece, mostly from I think almost the entire time. There was a couple of practices with people on like trumpets and stuff.
Oh, yeah. That was the time to give that away, for sure.
For sure.
You stayed in Port Charlotte for a couple years after high school, and you said you went to Manatee.
Yeah.
And what were you going to school for?
Nothing.
Not
I
just,
was like, I should go to school. Yeah, I was like, I should go to school and play music and work at the mall.
uh-huh.
And it was perfect. And I didn't declare a major or anything. I don't think I ever did. They never made me. I was just like, not business. I'm just going to take some classes. And then they gave me an AA degree. And then,
Now, did you move straight to Savannah then, or?
yeah.
And what
Yeah,
made you?
I applied. What made me choose it? I guess, Well, I wanted to go to art school. I felt like they had like a film video program, and I was like, that sounds kind of cool. I'll check it out. And I looked at like Fort Lauderdale. I didn't really like that, and then I went because it was just like one building. It was like the Art Institute, in Fort Lauderdale.
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, I want something like a little more campusy, but SCAD's not really a campus either. It's just kind of like buildings all over town. But it was cool. And it was like far enough away, but it was still pretty close,
Yeah.
So like my whole family's there still in Port Charlotte. So.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it. And I just figured, like, honestly, I wanted to get out of town. I wanted to try something new because Dana had left. He moved up to Boston. And Chuck was really, just like focusing on work and like saving money and stuff, it seemed like.
Yeah.
I played a couple, I played a little bit with Kevin Alfie and Dana as like a little 3-piece. We wrote like a couple songs and had some practices. And that was cool before I moved to Savannah.
Yeah.
But, and I was like, well, I can start a band there if I want to, but I was just kind of ready for something new, I guess, overall.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I was like, well, I'm interested in making movies, and I'd always made little videos and stuff like that, so.
Uh-huh. And was...
So I go to SCAD, and like the first semester, I meet Jay, who became the drummer in Circle, Colin, who became the first guitarist, and Drew. I meet them all like the first couple of weeks, and Anthony, who became my husband.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I was assuming that you had at least met Drew there, but the fact that you met like all these people, that became very important to you.
Yeah.
And including, the person who became the most important to you, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really wild. That's awesome. Well, I was gonna ask what that transition was like, if that was difficult, because Port Charlotte is so small, and then just taking that leap. But it sounds like you met a bunch of really cool people right away, and took it from there.
Yeah, because like Savannah's pretty small too. Like I thought that I was going to some place that was a little more like a city. I thought I'd see more weather changes for some reason.
Uh-huh.
But it's just as hot, pretty much. The oak trees are cool, but that's about it. But as far as like differences, but yeah, more historical stuff going on there. But the students, like most of them were from elsewhere, just like me. There were not very many like local students. They were from everywhere, Midwest, New England, out west, freaking Louisiana, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And they really were, and international students too. So,
yeah. And
that's kind of like why I was older. I was like up to like 5 years older than a lot of the people there. Because I was going in, I was basically like a sophomore, because the stuff that transferred gave me like 1 year worth of credit. So I was like 23, and I felt old for being like basically a freshman in college.
Yeah.
But I was in a dorm, so there was just like a million people around, and you just start. And we had to evacuate for a hurricane like the second day we were there. I don't think classes had even started yet.
Damn.
And it was like I can't remember which hurricane it was, but it was like a mandatory thing. So everybody just got in their cars and drove like for 12 hours to get 180 miles or something. Yeah. So that was pretty bonding right away as well. Yeah. But like I would meet people and they'd be like, "Where are you from?" And I'm from Wisconsin, whatever. And so I kept I'd be like, Port Charlotte. Nobody knew where the fuck it was. So I just finally I see this person who's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Florida." And he's like, "Yeah, where?" "I'm from Fort Myers." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And that was And that was Colin, and he started Circle with me and Drew and Jay, so that was really weird. And we found out that we had played a show together. It was like he was in some band called like Shaggy and the Mystery Machine or something.
Okay.
It was so weird. But like Jay was from Boston. He was the drummer, and he was like from the Boston area. So he like had all these influences of like Converge and Cave In, like all this like stuff that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
Drew was from like the DC area, and he was from the Follow Dudes and like Page 99, like had grown up listening to a lot of that kind of like political punk and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And that I didn't know about. And I quickly realized that like being in Florida, it's like you're sort of like, you might as well not even be in the U.S. because the bands just can't come down that far. Like little bands, it's too much. It's too far to go for a shitty show. If you can spend 4 days in Florida, you might as well spend it driving to California where you're going to have a great show, you know?
Yeah. And even if you do hit the state, like you're not going to be probably near Port Charlotte. The closest you're going to go is like Tampa, Orlando, which was, you know, I mean, we obviously like saw shows there or whatever, but not like smaller bands or whatever. Even then you had to be like at a certain level before you'd be playing there. Oh, yeah. I mean, at least the stuff that I heard about, you know? Yeah.
I wasn't super mobile when I was younger. It took a while, you know. It wasn't until I was like 19 and 20 and stuff before I was actually like going to shows that were far away.
Yeah. I remember Regret played in Ybor City a couple times, and we played at the Brass Mug once with that band Weston, which is like wild. But yeah, the Regret played while we were in high school. We played in Ybor City with Asuk, which is pretty. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, and I mean, I've been on tours where I'll tell someone that we're touring with, like, yeah, we're going to play like a show or two in Florida, and they'll be like, are we going to play Miami? You're like, are you out of your fucking mind? You know, like Miami is so far. You have no idea, you know, but it's like,
no, you get Jacksonville, okay? You get Jacksonville and you'll like it.
There's a beach. That's what you want, right? That's all you think of.
Portrait
after you had met all the folks, Drew and all them, how long until you had started playing?
Like shows?
No, I mean
'Cause
just playing together, like start the band
Oh,
essentially.
oh. Well, let's see. Pretty soon, because I feel like I met Jay right off because he lived in my dorm, and he was like an RA of the floor above or below me, and so he was just like very social. He just knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think like he saw me like wearing all the band shirts that I wore, and I was wearing like a Hot Water Music shirt, and he was like, "Hey, that's a cool band, blah blah blah."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay. And then I don't know how it came up, but I gave him my CD at some point. I gave him a Fisticuff CD.
Oh.
And I was like, this is my band. And he was like, cool,
Yeah.
I'm in the band too. And but at some point he asked me, I think we there was like a winter break. It was pretty long. It went from like Thanksgiving to New Year's, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
So there was a long break where most people would go home, especially if you're in the dorm, you go home. And he was like, "Hey, when you come back, bring your bass and amp, and we'll play some music if you want to." I was like, "Okay, cool." So and I think he knew Drew from like a class or a buddy's class or something, and then Colin also lived in our dorm, and he kind of did the same thing, just like brought all his gear back with him after the break, if he didn't have it already. I can't remember. And they let us, we like practiced in the dorm, like common area. And it's right on Oglethorpe Street in downtown Savannah. It's like an old hotel.
Oh, wow.
So you're basically like playing in the lobby of an old, like, crappy Holiday Inn or something.
Oh, wow.
But they let us practice there, and then and Savannah had tons of house shows and stuff like that. But I think the first thing we did was play like the school talent show.
Oh, wow.
And Drew was like, he's like showing me these. I think the first song he showed me was Houdini Logic.
Okay.
And it's just weird. Like I was like, this is weird. I don't get this. It took me a while to kind of adjust to the way he wrote.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever adjusted to the way he wrote. It was like everything was just like a super learning curve for me. I was like, okay, I listen to Alkaline Trio and shit, but like,
yeah,
this is a little more intense.
Yeah.
But there was also like a certain amount of like, I am going to learn this shit, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to, and so, but like accepting the challenge and then like taking it on and then being able to do it and then like performing it, it's just phenomenal feeling,
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be. I mean, that's no small task at all. I mean, I was talking the other day about, just a band that I was playing in, and, I had been playing for years, and when somebody really challenged me and just like how, I not only appreciated that, but it made the payoff like that much more substantial as well.
The payoff for sure.
Yeah. So you started practicing, and then basically it's time to record some songs and play some shows. And what were those first shows like? Were they just so much different than any shows you'd played before?
They were. Let me think. Okay, so the first one, I played with them. Like I said, it was like a talent show. We played like two of our songs and a Get Up Kid song. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
And
what
then,
song did you play?
We played Holiday.
Okay.
And but like I don't think the other two songs had any vocals. So like Drew had this like super what do you call it when your pickups go harmonic or something?
Yeah. Microphonic?
Yeah, so he would microphonic or whatever it is.
Okay.
He would scream into you could like scream into the pickups so it would come out of your amp.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had that. I think it means your pickups are broken, but he was
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like some of them just do that or if there's something wrong with them. I definitely know what you're talking about, though. I don't know
So
all the rules with it either.
yeah, so some of the first shows were just like no vocals, no microphones, just like screaming into the room.
And you did a Get Up Kids song that way too?
No, I think we had a mic for that, but that
Okay.
was the only time we played it.
Okay.
That was the only time we played it.
At the talent show?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. I guess maybe one of those. I don't know. Somebody's probably got a set list of it of us playing it at one of the Savannah house shows. But like, yeah, so we started playing these shows, and Savannah had a bunch of cool bands too. And a whole bunch of kids that wanted to see music and like hang out in these old homes that we were all living in, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and at some point I was like, hey, I've been dating this guy who has a recording studio.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, why didn't you say something? I was like, I didn't want to be like, hey, let's go record with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So, but the studio was here in Brunswick, so we had to drive down a little bit, and then we stayed the night at the studio, got in trouble for that, and then that's when we did the demo.
Uh-huh.
So I think there was like 5 songs on that, and put it out just like cassettes, CDRs, you know, copied books and rubbings, lots of manila envelopes.
Right. Do you still have those things?
Oh yeah, I do have a couple. I just found a few the other night.
Awesome.
Yeah, because we try to save a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I found some buttons that we made out of like soda or like beer tops.
Oh yeah.
Soda tabs and safety pins with like gessoed artwork on top. They held up.
I remember we talked about that at some point, like back in like 2004 when we played together when I was in Akamili. I think it was maybe earlier than 2004. I have a really bad like timeline
Me too.
with Akamili specifically, but yeah, it had to be somewhere around there because my son was born already, and that was in 2002, so it'd be somewhere around there. But
do you remember who was playing drums? Because Jay left in like 2005, and we had Bobby on guitar in 2005. So if we were a 3-piece, it might have been before that.
It was not a 3-piece. It was a 4-piece. That was when you had the other guitar player. So I guess it was later than I thought. I don't know. Well, it
could have been 2005.
Okay.
You know, which isn't too far off, right?
Yeah. I put the death date on that band like earlier for some reason but I really like the last show that band played was the same night that the movie Superman Returns came out. So I could easily look it up at some point based on that. But anyway, so you had the demo, and did you start touring at all then, or did that not come until later?
No, because we were all full-time college students. We took it seriously. We weren't trying to like quit school and hit the road and be in a rock and roll band, you know?
Right.
Like we I guess we sort of always treated it as like an art project, an extension of our art schooling maybe. But we would do like, because Dad had crazy long breaks, so we would do like a spring break tour.
Yeah,
like
that's
one time
Yeah.
We do like little weekend things, and also Fridays were a day off. They're supposed to be like a lab day, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have classes or anything, so we would do like little trips to like Richmond because Drew knew people up there, or down to like Tallahassee and try to play. I mean, we played like a falafel place I can remember, and that couldn't have been on a tour. It had to be like
Awesome.
something.
And how was the falafel?
The falafel,
Average.
I can't remember.
It couldn't have been that great, or you would
Yeah.
remember, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, I definitely remember the good ones.
Yeah,
So
but no complaints on the falafel, so maybe it was okay.
no,
Maybe it's
right,
passable.
just averaged out. So as far as
yeah.
what your school was like, and the way that the band's releases were coming together, where did As the Roots Undo, where did that fall in that? I'm assuming that after the split with Page 99, there was kind of like there was maybe a desire to focus on. I mean, that's quite anybody that's heard it can realize that that's quite an ambitious record, and I imagine that there was a lot of preparation. And where did that fall in your school? Was that towards the end, or?
Yeah, for me, I was done in the summer of 2002, which is when we did our first U.S. tour, and I think that the 7-inch came out right before that.
Oh, okay.
And we were on tour, and then Page 99 went to Europe with it.
Mm-hmm.
So they had copies of it with them, and they were like, people were buying it and being like, who is this other band? And we started hearing from people in Europe, like, pretty quickly, like, oh, shit, I got your 7-inch at a Page 99 show. And so, but they had like I think Drew and Jay had another year or so at SCAD. I think they graduated in 2003. And then that's when we started like recording, or at least like writing. I can't really remember writing. I think that mostly the writing for As the Roots Undo was going on because Jay and Drew lived together for a while, and they were writing a lot. And they would be better people to ask about that kind of stuff. But I know, and Anthony too, because he remembers like all the shit that they went through recording and all that, and when it was, it was, I know that it was done like around the end of 2003, but like the artwork, and all the crazy packaging, cause like, that CD that kind of unfolds and folds into itself. It just, the format for that didn't exist. They had to make it in the factory.
Oh, wow.
So that took a little while, a little work. And so I think it came out finally in like 2004, sometime in like the spring, when everything was ready. But yeah. So writing all that, like they would do that, and I think I would make like weekly trips up to Savannah, spend like the day or the next two days with them, like learning everything that they had written and kind of, adding what I felt needed to be added, or, whatever I need to write for myself. A lot of times, like the bass is just kind of following the guitar, but there's like a lot of room for,
contrast, or just different ways to affect it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times the vocals and stuff, I wouldn't know too much of it until we would record. Drew'd kind of come in with his idea of who was going to do what, and we just play around with it until we were happy with it.
Yeah.
That kind of took the longest because, we take years writing and changing stuff and rewriting and, making everything perfect. zooming into like a tenth of a second of a part and playing that over and over and over again until we had it tight.
Yeah.
And then we'd go into the studio and it would be like the first time we, other than Drew, had heard the lyrics. We'd be like, okay, that's what the song's about.
Yeah.
Although I still didn't really know what the song was about most of the time. but I mean, that wasn't my role. Like, my role was to just, like, I don't know, it was to sort of, like, act out what the part was. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, I felt like, under the direction of Drew being the director, I would be like, okay, well, here's how I can own that. And,
yeah, for sure.
And express it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you have one of the most unique voices in the you know, I can't pin y'all down into a genre or anything, but just in the heavier stuff that I listen to, I don't even think that I knew that you were doing guest stuff on a 65 Days of Static track, and when I heard that, I was like, that's absolutely Kathy. So like, you know, there's absolutely
no way, really.
Yeah,
because that sounded so different. I felt like that sounded different than.
And you were really going for something else, but you put your fingerprint, you put your fingers all over it. You left your trace there, and I think that's great. I was just trying to compliment you in that way.
Thanks.
So.
No, yeah. I mean, it was always the most fun part for me. I mean, the lyrics of any song have always been like what I'm always focused on. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to do vocals and be just kind of all over the place with it, like no rules. Sing apart, speak apart, whisper apart, stream apart.
Yeah.
And we just play around with it until we had like 100 vocal tracks. Poor Anthony had to go through.
Yeah. I've been.
Let's do many more vocal tracks.
Yeah. I've been on that end myself, like with my own projects and also with other people's projects, and it's something. It's like when you get down, like right down to it, after some time has passed and you're like, I don't know why there's this many of the exact same take of this thing or whatever. Like, you don't remember, but at the time it was like, this must be done.
Right. It was so important that yeah.
Yeah.
But it felt cool for us. Like, I think I always thought that was cool, that like writing everything was such a meticulous process. Like, and then we'd go in the studio and it'd be like, all right, let's do some vocals. What the fuck are we going to do? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like all this planning and then just a little bit of chaos thrown in there.
Yeah.
I think it was a good mix. It was a good, like, little recipe.
It's perfect. I mean, as a listener, it all sounds like, well, it all does sound pretty chaotic to me, but also it all sounds like very well planned. So I guess.
Yeah. Well, definitely lyrically. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't like winging that, but I feel like the I just feel like it was unrehearsed.
Yeah. Well, there was so much collaboration, it sounds like. So that's that's going to create its own thing. And I mean, the balance is what ended up being probably like very special, and it must have felt really great to have been a part of all of that creative process, and and have those. That's one of the best things to me, is the memories I have of creating the artwork as much as like performing it. Do you feel similar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do. Being in the studio and just kind of being closed off from the world for like 12 hours at a time. and then going to get dinner, and then coming back and closing yourself in the studio for another amount of time. It's just like, it's just cool because that's like, it's like spending your life with people. It's like even like your closest friends, you don't spend like 24 hours a day with them. Yeah. But like when you're on tour, you like spend all day in the van, and you spend all day at the venue, and then you eat the same food, and then you sleep at the same place, and then you do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that too. You're just like, you have the exact same life as the people in your band for that amount of time, and that's always been kind of cool to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's
a unique experience,
Yeah, it's really, if you've never lived through it and you're reading a post-tour note online or something, and it's like, I miss my friends already. You can kind of be like, it's been 3 days, but when you've been through it, you're like, no, I get it totally, for sure. So after the album came out, how long do you feel like it took before there was just a ton of traction on it? Just like, did it take long at all, or was it kind of the response was immediate?
I think because, so that one, it was on Robotic Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a lot of, like they were promoting it, and they had already put one of the songs, I think Non-Objective, it was on like a sampler that went in a bunch of magazines. I want to say like AP magazine or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So there was a sampler that was out there somewhere. It was like, there was a ton of downloads on like hardcoremp3.com and stuff. Because like Non-Objective was out. I think it was on their website. It might have been on like Robotic Empire website or one of those file sharing sites.
Uh-huh.
But people were hearing that song. If they had the demo, they already knew Nervous Light. But yeah, and so like he had distribution, Robotic Empire had some distribution, so it was like Hot Topics had it and Best Buys had it. It was weird. Some of them,
Yeah, yeah.
And they could get it too, like they could order it for people. But I don't know, it kind of felt like we were playing catch up, or like they were kind of catching up to us as we were trying to move on to the next thing.
Oh, because the process was so long with all the factory side of it and the production side of it.
Yeah. And so sometime in 2004, that like we got an email and they were like, "Hey, you're in Stone." Somebody who had subscribed to Rolling Stone had got it early in the mail,
Uh-huh.
And they said that like David Frick wrote about it, which is like the coolest person at Rolling Stone who could possibly write about your band.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck is that? But
yeah, that's wild.
So we kept getting little tour offers that we just couldn't refuse. We'd be like, okay. Let's do that one. That sounds cool. And then we kept kind of like putting off writing, and then Jay moved to Atlanta, and that wasn't really working, so we needed a new drummer, and it just took us forever. We got Caleb from Mayer. We met Mayer on a Canadian tour in like 2005, and they were like a really cool, like, just like, what do you know them? Them? It's like a doomy, super slow, heavy.
I'm so bad with classifications, and there's a million like things that people will call something, and if you call it the wrong thing, some people get real upset. But, yeah, I'm familiar with their album.
That too. Yeah. So, and So Caleb heard that we needed a drummer. He came down. He took like a 24-hour bus ride to come see us, to play with us and try out, basically. And we were like, oh, he's incredible.
Yeah.
And he's so musical. He's not just like a drummer. He's an incredibly musical person. He can sing and play guitar and play bass and obviously play the hell out of drums. Mm-hmm. And just took it all on immediately and started writing with Drew and stuff. So that was like around 2007. I don't know if I skipped ahead of what you wanted to hit on, but
oh yeah, no, I was gonna ask some of these questions that you just filled the blanks in for me. So yeah, I just. This a very long time ago as well when we played together, or maybe a little bit before when Akamili played with y'all. But I had been listening to Circle Takes the Square for some time and not knowing that that was you in that band, and then being like, I just, like loved the band, and I was, at some point just doing more research and saying to myself, like, there's no way there has to be somebody else with the exact same name. No way I went to high school with this like, who,
yeah,
when you're from where we're from, you would understand what we're saying, like, who comes out, and then we just like through this exact same kind of music that neither one of us was doing when we left there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's an extension of punk music, but it's different enough, like, but it's just awesome. Like, yeah, we both made this random leap, into this other kind of thing, and then like years later, I'm listening to your album, not even knowing it's a real kicker for me. But
yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. So after the album is officially out and y'all did some touring on it, you said there were some tours that you couldn't pass up. Who did you tour with? Like after the album came out, like what were some of the bands that you did tour
trying to think if it was when this stuff was. So we did. Well, let me just look at our Wikipedia page here. Well, we did a tour with Thursday, but that was a little later.
Okay.
That was maybe like 2007. But we, Fear Before the March of Flames, they were touring with this band called Fire When Ready from upstate New York, and Portugal the Man was on that tour.
Okay.
And we did a couple tours with them. We did tours with it was just like, I don't know, there were places we wanted to go where like bands we thought were cool.
Yeah.
We got to do a tour. We did a tour with Genius in like 2006. It was like the best time of my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
With doing this band.
Yeah. I should talk to Dana as well if I could do that. That'd be awesome, because that's just another thing. Like, you know, I heard Junius, and you know, it's the internet. I mean, you listen to a band and you don't necessarily go and say, I need to know the names of every person in this band. You just like dig the songs or whatever. And then later it's like, this, come on, you know, do I actually know this person too? And it's absolutely true. But yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, and to be from, you know, it's not like we're from some city where like musicians come from. You know, we're.
Oh, I know. What was?
It's so weird.
Yeah, the graduating class was like, wasn't it only around like 300 or something? I
don't know. Yeah, it's like people. That's not something I would have known, but like,
I feel like somebody told me way later.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely smaller towns, but as far as like stuff to do or like things in place that would make that would make sense, that there'd be all these people playing in the bands that would like, you know, move all over the country and continue to do it. Mm-hmm. It just seems weird.
Yeah.
And like, I was going to say, like, you know, of course, the Less Than Jake thing was kind of cool, just being like, oh, they were in, you know, they went to our high school. Maybe that all kind of gave us some sort of idea that
it can be done.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We can get out of here and do things. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you know, the CEO of Interscope is from Port Charlotte.
What?
You know, remember John Janik?
No. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, he was the same. He started Fueled by Ramen with Vinny from Less Than Jake. He was like their age.
Oh, okay.
Same age as those guys.
Okay.
But he was a kid from Port Charlotte.
Wow.
It counts.
Wow. Dang. Which, well, I guess that leads into my next question. I was going to ask, after you know, the success of the album and stuff, were y'all chased down by like labels who prospectively wanted to release the next album? And
a little bit, but we knew that our timeline wasn't going to work with a label.
Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of figured that out with Robotic Empire too, that it was just like, it's not really fair, I guess, to do to a label to be like, yeah, we'll have the art ready in another 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
Or we'll get to writing whenever we can.
Yeah.
We just knew that our timeline was our own and that we were just kind of like, I don't know. And there was only like so much of it that we wanted. Like I feel like there wasn't like much more that a label could give us that we wanted. We just felt like we could do our own thing and we could handle whatever distribution needed to be done, and
mm-hmm.
you know, with an allowance of of being able to fuck up if we fuck up and being okay with that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, that was kind of like what we wanted. To just own all our music, be on our own timeline, and
say yes to the
tour
tours
with who we wanted to tour with.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
and say no and like, stay home and have a life. I mean, there were bands that we knew that were just touring for 9 months of the year. It was just something we weren't interested in even then.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know. There were some emails, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think like we hopped on enough of other people's tours, that were like booked by real booking agencies to kind of see like, what were the like positive aspects of doing something like that and what the negative ones were.
Yeah.
And we kind of figured like, and we kind of made out pretty good, just kind of saying, just kind of like waiting for offers and being like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, let's do it. Or no, we're good.
Yeah.
Or we're busy. Or,
yeah.
Well,
that's awesome. And I think there's really something to be said about the fact that, you're able to do that. Like it sounds like exactly what I would want, not to put words into anyone's mouth or to imply that people that do it another way are, doing it wrong. But for me personally, that's exactly, how if it fell into my lap, that'd be perfect,
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to, because then we could also book our own tours. So we would kind of switch it up where we do our own tours that we'd kind of headline.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be able to play as long as we want, have short drives if we want a short drive, take days off and like go camping if we wanted to do that.
Uh-huh.
And if you're headlining, you're going to make a little bit more money than if you're opening on one of these tours where you're just like hoping you sell a bunch of merch so you can, so you
not
can make
starve.
money, but
Yeah.
not starve.
Yeah.
Not steal shoes from Walmart. But
Sounds like a story there. So then there's a bit of a break, and then there's Decompositions Volume 1.
Yeah.
And you basically started a label to release that, right?
Yeah, we did.
Basically, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
and was that part of, like, it sounds like everything you were just saying about booking tours and having talked briefly to whichever labels, that starting a label to do that record was really like falling in line with everything you just said about having you to be able to do it on your own time, to be able to do it exactly the way you wanted and without, the kinds of interference or pressures that being beholden to someone else would create. So you basically went straight into recording mode for that album, or rather like into the studio, then rehearse, then record? Or was it a lot of like what you were talking about before where you would get together and how was the creative process with that album?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of everything because it just was such a process,
Yeah.
We got Caleb in 2007. We did some tours with a drummer named Josh from Colorado in like 2006. And we wrote some stuff with him. We may have written a good chunk of Ritual of Names, the first song on there. So I think we had a lot of that. There's tons of demos for this stuff. I was listening to some stuff the other day, and I was like, this didn't even end up on Volume 1, and it's like,
oh wow,
basically a production demo like video that we made and put out. And I'm like, whoa, there's riffs on there that aren't, so that's why we called it Volume 1. Is there was just so much. There was like a huge chunk of music, and then that first chunk sort of got cut, and the second chunk got pushed to the end, and then from the first chunk evolved the rest of Volume 1. So there's a lot of Drew and Caleb writing and rewriting, like spending hours and entire days inside of a warehouse in Brunswick in like 100-degree heat.
Ooh.
And so brutal. But we all kind of lived in the same town then. But like, I just remember being so frustrated with. It's really hard for me to learn the stuff and to play it. And so when I would learn things and spend a lot of time learning it, and then go back and they'd be like, "Hey, this is all different now." Yeah. After a long while of that, I was like, "I'll see you guys when you're ready to to finish up, and when you're ready for me, let me know." So a lot of that I just wasn't involved with because I couldn't. I felt like really melting. Frustrated by it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I just rely a lot on muscle memory.
Uh-huh.
So you can't fuck with my muscle memory.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's gonna get you. It works for a reason, and it is very hard to go against it. Just as something as simple as and this doesn't even necessarily apply to muscle memory, but just like cues, but it's really hard to just like switch cues. Like in Coma Regalia, I play with two different drummers, and they count certain songs off certain different ways. And sometimes it's like, 1, 2, 3, and I'm ready to start the song, but it's the wrong drummer. This is the drummer that actually counts to 4.
Oh my God.
And it's, this isn't, and that's not even anything near as complicated as what you're describing. But it's just, it's habit and it's muscle memory, and it's those cues that you get used to, and it's just like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially when it's so complicated, I have to rely on not thinking about it, or I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah, I don't
so
think
the less information, like the less beta versions I have, the better.
Yeah.
And there are a lot, so
yeah.
It was really hard for me. But that process went on from like 2007, and then so like in 2009. We all got like engaged. 3 out of 4 of us. We all got engaged, and Drew bought a house up in Front Royal in Virginia, where he's from. So they moved up there, I think around that time. And so it was kind of like, it was just like a lot of stuff was just put on hold. We were getting ready for weddings. In this case, 3 of us were getting ready for our weddings. Mm-hmm. So then like around, and then we all kind of got married within 3 months in 2010. But 2010 was just a super crazy year. Like, we got married. My dad died 2 weeks later, and then on my wedding day, the restaurant where I worked burned down, and it was like, whoa, a lot of shit's happening right now. But I think it was in January of 2011 that we started recording. That we were like, okay, like we have to do this. We did a Kickstarter, Mm-hmm. I just remembered that was in there somewhere. I was like, you guys, look how many people want us to do this record.
Yeah.
And that was like a real pump up.
Yeah. And you, and if I remember correctly, you kind of, you did it so you could record the album the way you wanted to. You you built the studio and everything, right? At that point, or was it did it already exist, or
no.
it was improved upon, or?
Yeah, no, the studio was there. It was Anthony's, the place where he'd always worked, and by then I think it was definitely his.
Okay.
Somewhere in there we got kicked out though.
I don't know why I was thinking I remembered seeing, but Anthony is obviously, as you know, seems to be a very handy person. So maybe I was just like reading too much into it, but I thought I remembered seeing like some kind of carpentry work and stuff going on in some of
Maybe, but he's always doing that.
right. So the album comes out, and like, you know, it's really something to like. I can't even process it sometimes. So when you're talking about like learning several versions and playing it, yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's just like it's mind melting. But and then you did some tours on that as well, and what was that like? After, I mean, it must have been just to actually have it in the world after all of that work, and then to be able to go and play the songs live. I mean, was it just like?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so at some point we put out just the first half of the record.
Mm-hmm.
We had like CDs made. It was called Rites of Initiation, and it was like the first, 4 songs. I think it was like 24 minutes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we did tour. We played our first show back after like 3.5 years of no shows. We played at the Black Cat with Page 99 and Thou. Mm-hmm. And like the middle of a hurricane, so that was kind of crazy. But then we did a little tour that fall, and we played shows with like, well, I thought we did Touche Amore asked us to jump on their Pianos Become the Teeth, their tour with Pianos Become the Teeth, and we did a bunch of shows with them. And I think we did a European tour with Kylesa. Kylesa invited us to this huge, long European tour. And we've never done those. We've never done one. We were always kind of scared because back in the day, everyone was going out tours in Europe and breaking up as soon as they got home.
Oh, yeah.
we want to make sure it's pretty solid tour before we ever do it. And then we just never had a chance to. And Kellis was like, it'd be really cool if you, and so we went out with them in Ken Mode and did this huge long tour. And by then everyone was like, what the fuck, you guys did a Kickstarter, where's our record,
Oh, right.
We were like, well, here's half of it. We'll finish up as soon as we can. But and we put it out like, I think December that year digitally, and then had all the records and stuff made later.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing shows after that was crazy. It was so cool, and like I was just like feeling more appreciative than I think I ever had before.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna answer every email. Like, it was just like, I don't know, we're just gonna not take it for granted. Just enjoy it.
For sure. I saw y'all. Obviously, I think we must have played a couple of shows at some point with y'all shortly after, on one of the tours, when we played Skeletal Lightning Fest together, and we played another show in Chicago as well at some point. But also,
we played at the Bottom Lounge together in in like 2014 maybe. Oh wait, it was not Bottom Lounge, it was Beat Kitchen. That's where we played together in Chicago.
Okay. Okay.
with Lord Snow.
Yeah, it was with Lord Snow.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think my favorite show out of those was actually the just as a like from watching you play was the show that y'all played at one of the 7 Days of Samsara reunions in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we came out. We played with you like a couple days before that, but then we just came to that show, and y'all were so great, and you just were putting everything you had into it, and then something happened where someone lost their glasses, and you somehow knew like the second it happened and stopped everything, and we're like, this person lost their glasses, that shit is not cheap, we're gonna help them find their glasses. And like, you know what, as like I was like, I don't know, the whole evening was overwhelming to me, 7 days and y'all and seeing so many friends. But honestly, when that happened, I was like, I'm so proud to know that person. And I hope that makes sense, I know that's
Aw.
strange, but I was like, what a great person. That's what I was thinking. Just like, and I really felt like it was heartwarming to me in a way. Uh, but
That's hilarious.
you know, but anyway, I guess after all that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Since the album is called Decompositions Volume 1, is there a Volume 2? Is it a perspective that there could be?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bad idea to call it Volume 1 just because I felt like there was a precedent for that, like just being like a bad omen or something. Like, don't be so presumptuous as your guest to assume that you're doing something else out. Like it was a jinxing.
Yeah, the implication is that there, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, the intention was definitely there, and there's stuff written for sure, but yeah, things happen and relationships change and lives evolve and stuff, so we never know. I'm never saying never, but
yeah, very fair.
I can't tell.
So after everything we just talked about, what does get you really excited these days? Still working at Southern Soul?
Yeah, I work for them more behind the scenes now. We built a screen shop they have this building that has like a big warehouse, and it's just like a lot of room. So they were like, you should make yourself a screen shop, make all our shirts, and then do whatever the hell else you want. I was like, for real? Okay. So I've been teaching myself how to screen print for the last couple of years.
That's
and awesome. I love making stuff, so I like sewing shit, make wallets, I got these heat presses at a pawn shop, and I'm, trying to figure out if I should get into like sublimating, and stuff like that. So I do a lot of I do a bunch of stuff for them, but like they have a line of like barbecue sauces and like rubs and seasonings and stuff. So they have a bunch of products that I send out to wholesalers, and I send out to, we have an online store where I just send them to the customers, and I deal with all that and all the inventory and all their merchandise. So it's like merch. It's like a merch store.
Yeah.
I design some of their stuff, and I print it, and I make sure it's stocked in the restaurant. And they always have like crazy special events that come up. So there's always something new to do, We'll do a 4th of July shirt. We'll do Georgia-Florida weekend is like a big football game that like the island is just always hopping. It's the same weekend as the fest, so.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. It was always really hard when I worked in the restaurant to get that weekend off unless I was playing fest. So I would have to like be on tour if I wanted time off from work. But they've always been really cool. Like Southern Soul, I've worked there pretty much since 2008. And I was like, I need to really start paying some of this debt off that I acquired from being in college and then just being on tour a lot. So, but I wanted to find a place where I could work and then just leave and come back, you know?
Yeah.
And they had just been super cool from day one. They were like, oh, you're in a band? Yeah, go on tour whenever you want. And then it was like 3 years before I actually went on tour. And they were like, are you sure you're in a band? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And then I was like, okay, bye. But yeah, so I've just been there for a while and doing that stuff.
Well, that's awesome that it sounds like the skills that you taught yourself being in punk bands is now something that you sort of like you do it in your daily life. I kind of am trying to lean that way myself. Like I'm like, yeah, I'd rather be printing stuff for bands or, whatever than even though you still work for the company, it sounds like you kind of just go and kind of do what you're supposed to do your own thing, and that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate like that, and you don't realize how many skills you get from playing music and being a band and like touring and stuff. You learn a lot about broken cars and broken gear and
Yeah.
the mail system, the postal system, and
yeah. And that was my conversation with Kathleen Stubelek. Thank you so much, Kathy, for taking the time to talk with me and for being a friend all these years. Also, thanks to everyone who's listened and give me kind words and encouragement. It means a lot. Until next time, take care and do good things.